Hi guys, welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about vertex form and basically how to get a quadratic equation that's in standard form into vertex form instead. So you will want your vertex form note sheet, which is posted on Google Classroom with this Ed puzzle, and you will want a pen or a pencil and your calculator. So up first, this is the note sheet, okay? And it says that our learning target is that we are going to write a quadratic function in vertex form. Okay, so this is just a new form. We've talked a little bit about it. We've seen it a few times, and it's going to be helpful moving forward when we talk about transformations. Okay, and it kind of looks like this. Okay, so you have probably seen this before, but we're going to focus on this form and the H and the K because that is what is going to be your vertex. And we'll talk more about that in a couple videos later this week. Okay, so first thing, it says steps for standard form to vertex form. So again, remember standard form is this ax squared plus bx plus c. And basically we're moving it into this form. So that's the main goal for today. Okay. So here the steps are very similar to solving by completing the square. So as you can see here, we are going to isolate the x squared and x terms on the left-hand side. So that means, again, you're going to kick out the constant. Then you're going to complete the square. So that solving skill is important. So we're going to add in the plus of blanks and then have to know how to fill them by doing your b value divided by 2 squared. And then we'll have to factor the left side, and it should end up being x plus a number squared or x minus a number squared every time. And then we'll have to simplify the right side and then add or subtract it over to make sure the right side is equal to 0. And then basically you'll just replace that 0 with y to make sure it's written as an equation. Okay, so let's go ahead and try one here. And I'm looking at number 1, and it says the directions are to convert the quadratic equation from standard form to vertex form. Okay, so again, we are going to start out by kicking out that constant. We're going to subtract it over. And that's going to leave us with x squared minus 6x. And here's where I'm going to add in the plus a blank equals a negative 8 and plus a blank. Okay, so then remember this next part to fill in those blanks, we need to do b divided by 2 and square it. So your b value is negative 6. So then you would do negative 6 divided by 2 and square it. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Whoops. So then negative 3 squared, be careful, this is why I use the parentheses. A negative 3 squared is actually a positive 9. Okay, so that is what will go in your blanks. So positive 9, positive 9. Then, just like before, we're going to factor this left-hand side. So when I do that, we're trying to think of two numbers that multiply to give you 9, that add to give you negative 6. And those are negative 3 and negative 3. Keeping in mind that we've seen that number here. Okay. And so we're going to write that as x minus 3 squared. And then on this side here, we are going to just combine like terms or simplify. And that is going to be, whoops, a negative 8 plus 9 is going to be a positive 1. Now, normally we would go ahead and solve. That's what we were doing when we were solving by completing the square. So we would take the square root of each side, but that's not what we want here. We want to write it in vertex form. So here's where it gets a little bit different. So now these last two steps, 4 and 5, it says make sure the right-hand side equals 0. So in order to get the right-hand side equals 0, I just need to subtract over 1, and then it's going to look like x minus 3 squared. and then the minus 1 is on the outside of the parentheses, and then equals 0. And then it says to replace the 0 with y. So now it's going to look like y equals x minus 3 squared minus 1, and that is your final answer. That is your quadratic equation in vertex form. Okay, so this was standard form. This is vertex form. If you put those each into your graphing calculator and the y equals and you graphed them, you're going to get the exact same quadratic or the exact same parabola. It's just written in two different forms. Okay, cool. Let's try another one. All right, so again, I'm going to kick out this c value. So subtract 4. I'm going to be left with x squared plus 8x plus a blank equals -4 plus a blank. I'm going to figure out what goes in that blank by doing my b value divided by 2 squared. So 8 divided by 2, which is 4. 4 squared is going to be 16. So that's what's going to go in my blanks. So I put that here and here. Then I'm going to go ahead and factor. So what two numbers multiply to 16 that add to 8? 4 and 4. Again, notice this. So I'm going to write it as x plus 4 squared. And then that's going to equal -4 plus 16 is 12. But now, again, I want it to equal 0, so I'm going to subtract over that 12. So I'm left with x plus 4 squared minus 12. Whoops. Minus 12 equals 0. And again, I'm going to replace that 0 with y. So I'm going to write it as y equals x plus 4 squared minus 12. And that is my final answer. And again, we're going to talk later this week about what kind of this HK or what the vertex represents and how we can transform or move the graph of our parabola based on this information here, okay, based on the vertex form. Okay, let's try one more together and then I'll have you guys try some on your own. So we're looking at number 3 here. And again, start out the same way. So let's subtract over this 34, the c value. And that's going to leave me with x squared plus 12x plus a blank equals -34 plus a blank. And I'm going to figure out what goes in those blanks here. Whoops. So we're taking our b value, which is 12, dividing that by 2, which is 6, and then squaring it. So 6 squared is going to give us 36. So that's what goes in the blanks. Then I'm going to factor this left-hand side. So what two numbers multiply to give you 36 that add to give you 12? 6 and 6. So x plus 6 squared is how we're going to write that side. And then -34 plus 36 is going to be a 2. And then we just need to subtract that over. So this would look like y equals x plus 6 squared minus 2. And that's it. Okay. Awesome. So on the next side of your vertex form notes, you should be looking at 4, 5, and 6. So you could go ahead and try these 3. Okay. And I would go ahead and pause the video, but 4 is x squared minus 8x minus 12 equals 0. 5 is x squared plus 2x minus 10 equals 0. And 6 is x squared plus 6x plus 14 equals 0. So again, I would pause the video here, try those three exactly the same steps that we did in the first three, and then in a second here, I will show what the answers should be. Okay, so here is the work and the answer for number 4. You should have ended up with y equals x minus 4 squared minus 28. Then in number 5, you should get y equals x plus 1 squared minus 11. And in number 6, you should get x plus 3 squared plus 5. Okay, and it is important to note what is on the inside of the parentheses and what is on the outside, because again, that's going to help us in the next lesson talk about the transformations or how the graph moves from the parent function. Okay. Alrighty, we will do some more examples just like this in class tomorrow. So have a good one. Bye-bye.